All right, district breakdown time. There's my guy, Matty Diggs. And we are talking 10-6A, 17 district. Every time at the end of the year, or at the beginning of the year, we think Rockwall Heath, that winner is going to be the district winner. Is that the same for this year, or what do you think is going to happen here as we get some fresh blood in this district as well?
We do have some fresh blood in this district, but I do think it's going to be the same old song one more time. And I'm going to go as far as to make another proclamation, because you get a rivalry game, and it's early in the season. You're going to have Rockwall Heath first district game. You remember what happened last year. We don't even have enough time just to put the highlights of that 70 to whatever game and multiple overtimes last year. But I would go as far as to say, if for whatever reason Rockwall Heath could pull an upset on Rockwall, I still think Rockwall is significantly the better team. It's just a rivalry thing. I think if you look at how Rockwall will play the rest of the district versus how Heath will play the rest of the district, there's just a pretty good sizable gap between Rockwall and Heath this year. I really like Rockwall this year. Now, I don't like them in the regional sense, because I think Rockwall has a really tough road to go, looking at Duncanville in the region at some point, depending on how things shape out. So I don't think Rockwall is a top team in the region as far as being a top 5 team as they've been in the past. But I definitely think they are head and shoulders the best team in this district. I've really enjoyed watching Lake Bennett the last couple of years as a change of pace quarterback coming in. And all of a sudden now he is the guy at quarterback. So I think he has a really good chance to shine. Noble Johnson, the Clemson recruit, we know that he's going to be fantastic. Aiden Meeks, fantastic player. But I think where Rockwall is a little bit different from last year is the quality of players they have on the defense. You got Weston Flowers coming back, Kevin Cunningham, Philip Bazemore. I really like Rockwall defensively. I think they're going to surprise people in this district on how defensively solid they are. Rockwall has always hung their hat on the offense and some crazy special teams quirks. Every time you watch a Rockwall game, you know you're going to see something great out of that special teams coordinator, Coach Young. And I think that will continue this year. I think they're head and shoulders above Rockwall Heath. Rockwall Heath has to deal with a new coach. They graduated just about everybody, but they got a lot of young talent stepping up. I think Rockwall Heath is a pretty solid number 2. Colin Lyles, new quarterback over there. You got Fletcher Fierro. They got 2 really good returning all-district running backs with Malachi Twesno and Britton Snyder. I just don't think they're at that Rockwall level. And I think Rockwall should win that game relatively handily, but I hate saying that because you know it out there, Ward. You put Flower Mound and Flower Mound Marcus in that mound showdown, you never know what you're going to see.
Never know. One underthrown pass and the whole thing turns the other way. And you talk about their good defense. Heck, Lake Bennett could probably play on defense as big as he is. He's not one of those kind of quarterback that's slender and guns and arm. He'll bowl you over too when he runs the ball. It seems to me, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, which I usually do every week, but it seems to me that when you talk about your tier system, you got Rockwall tier 1, and you don't even have Heath on that tier with them. It sounds like you got them tier 2. Now, are they by themselves on tier 2? And if not, who's with them and how close are they to them?
Yeah, I think Rockwall Heath is in tier 2. I think if you look at our top 25 countdown that we've been doing on the Twitter and the social media, which I think everybody should be checking out, Rockwall Heath will be a 12th ranked kind of a team, but I think they're very bunched up with that. If you look at 12, 16, 18, those teams are all kind of the same. When you start looking at the top 10, you really start to differentiate the teams and teams that you think can go 2 or 3 deep. And I think Rockwall is in a tier by itself. But I also agree with you that Rockwall Heath is in a tier by itself. I think when you look at this, tier 3 is when you're really going to have the competitive games. I think we're going to have 3 teams fighting for the last 2 playoff spots. And I think they're going to play some very competitive football. I have to give Tyler Legacy the nod just because it's Tyler Legacy. They got Luke Wolf at quarterback. Jordan Renault is a fantastic defensive lineman. He's going to get all the highlights and all the praise out in East Texas. Luke Youngblood is coming back at defensive end. I really like Mesquite Horn. For me, it's going to come down to Mesquite Horn versus Royce City, but Mesquite Horn is returning everybody. Royce City is returning everybody as well, but they're returning everybody from 5A D2. It's not even that they're jumping up 1 classification the way they split it up. They're jumping up 2 classifications. Royce City has eight to nine returning offensive starters, 8 to 9, 15 total players coming back. They're going to be fantastic. Harrison Hayes, really good offensive lineman. They got their quarterback, Kenneth Spring, coming back. Sam Mitchum, really good, talented running back, coming back with Royce City. I think they're loaded, but how good are they relative to that? And I was looking at Royce City's non-district schedule. They're going to play Grand Prairie and Arlington Bowie, but they're also playing like Melissa. So I feel like at some level there's a little bit of a mindset that maybe Royce City isn't ready for 6A. For me, when you go up into 6A, you got to schedule 6A teams. You don't want to just hold back and pretend like you're 5A D1 or 5A D2 anymore. You play up to your 6A classification. So I'm a little bit nervous about Royce City, but I think they have a lot of talent. They obviously have a lot of growth. You've been out to that Buc-ee's out there. You know that the growth is out there. But I think they're just going to be just a little bit out of the playoff picture this year, more on the strength of what Mesquite Horn has coming back more than anything specific to Royce City, what they don't have. I just don't know if they're going to have the depth and the 6A size and speed to compete in 6A. But it's going to be fun because they got a lot of players coming back. They're going to be a good team. They're going to be competing for that last playoff spot. And maybe it ends up that it's a DFW whitewash and we get all the teams in the playoffs, and it's Tyler Legacy just a little bit on the outside. Royce City is certainly good enough this year to make that at least a possibility in the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. And I'm going back to what you said about scheduling. That's the time to do it, too, in the non-district. You don't know what's going on in 6A yet. You haven't faced those big kids yet. Man, pile on, or at least give you 1 or 2 games like that, just to be like, okay, Rockwall's coming up. This is the kind of team that we're going to have to deal with. And bring back Mesquite Horn. I really like their secondary, man. I tell you, their defensive backfield, especially DJ Coleman, whenever he's ready to blitz too, off the end there, he's a dangerous guy. You're left with you haven't mentioned Mesquite yet. What's the word with the Skeeters? And then of course we got North 40 jumping up as well.
Yeah, Mesquite is a team that some have picked to make the playoffs. So, I mean, I could look like a real idiot more than I already do sometimes out here by excluding Mesquite from the playoff discussion. But when I really dug into their huddle and I was watching their highlights, they graduated so many very good key players from last year's season or from last year's team that made it to the playoffs and had some success, that I just look at what's left and I don't know that they've had the repeated success with the players that they have left to have earned a playoff spot at this point. Forrest Gatlin is going to be a fantastic player. You got David Robinson on the offensive side of the ball. Forrest Gatlin's a linebacker. Marcus Lerma, a really good defensive tackle. Tyreek Romack is expected to fight for quarterback for Mesquite. But, hearing some of the outgoing coaches when everybody moved over to Forney, I was a little bit worried about their depth coming up in the next 2 to 3 years. That was 2 to 3 years ago, so I'm wondering if these are the classifications that have a little bit of a hole in there. Some of the Mesquite ISD schools have had that, kind of the hits and misses, and I think this might be Mesquite Horn's success chance for success now with all the players you have coming back. I mean, they returned 8 all-district defensive players who saw time and got nominated and maybe the first, second, or third team on the defensive side of the ball. Offense will be some question marks for Mesquite Horn, but I think when you're playing and you only got to win a couple of games and you're playing some schools coming up like North Forney and Royce City, you really want to lean on that defense. And I think Mesquite Horn, even though that they had a coaching change, I think they're going to be able to lean on that defense and do good things this year. That's why I've slotted them just a little bit higher than Royce City, but it's going to be a fun game to watch.
You have any parting comments on North Forney? I know they're jumping up to 6A too, but I feel they may struggle a little bit. I have a feeling you might say the same.
Yeah, North Forney is going to be one of those. I think North Forney has a chance to beat Mesquite this year. So it's not that I think they're going to be completely whitewashed in the district. I just think, moving that double jump up just like Royce City. They have their quarterback coming back, Michael Phillips. They've got Brandon Murphy, a really good fullback coming back. Tylen Crochet, a really good receiver coming back. Gustavio Rubio, a very talented defensive end coming back. But I think in North Forney, one thing I was really impressed by watching them a couple of years ago was they had 6A size on the offensive line a couple of years ago when they had success at 5A Division II. I don't see that this year. And I think when you have that kind of deficiency in the depth, you're going to struggle in 6A. So I think North Forney will be competitive. I don't think they're just going to be an 0-10 kind of a team. I think they're going to play probably 3-7 as 1, 2, 3 score kind of games. If they get a turnover here, if they get a special teams play there, they can be competitive in some of those games. But I just don't think that they're going to have the size to compete quite yet. A couple years from now, in one more realignment, I think North Forney will be ready to compete in 6A. I just think this might have been a little bit too early. Obviously, the numbers are there, but I don't think the football and the culture and the program has caught up to 6A numbers quite yet for North Forney.
All righty, well, let's run down 1 through 7 and see what you think in this district.
Okay, we're gonna and just a shout out to Skyline. I think Skyline, as we'll talk about next week in our final week in 11-6A, would have really liked to be in this realignment, but they got moved over to the formerly known District of Doom, and we'll talk about if they should be known as that this week. But looking at this top 7, I just can't help but think of Skyline, that this could have been a playoff. Skyline could have been a playoff team in this alignment. But Rockwall 1, Heath 2, Tyler Legacy tentative 3, Horn tentative 4, Roy City 5, Mesquite 6, North Forney 7. But I think 3-5, very, very close.
Excellent. Well, like you said, we got the last district coming up next week, 11-6A. We got some state title contenders in that district, and we'll talk about that next week. Thanks for joining me, Diggsy.
We'll see you next week.
You've given enough of your money to gas and groceries this month, so when it comes to your wireless plan, don't overspend another second. Smile, you're on Cricket.